Okay, amazing to have you guys all for today. Just really grateful to see you guys all taking one step closer onto your leadership journey. Today we have an amazing speaker. This man has worked in the film industry. A lot of it has come through in the 90s, a great time, honestly. Um, and afterward, he started in the marketing industry and takes a different approach to marketing through a book he actually wrote and takes marketing in the sense of leading through the heart opposed to just tactics. So here we have Bill Dolan. The floor
Hi,
is yours, my
everybody.
friend.
Hi, you guys. Well, great to meet everybody. And you have to tell me, how do I pronounce Viridiana? How do I pronounce that? Beautiful name. And we have Jacqueline and Lily, and of course Alexis is on, and Emmanuel. Great to meet you. Well, then I'll kick off. Uh, right from the beginning. I'm going to share some slides, and that way it kind of gives you just a little bit of a background about me and kind of why I even wrote the book. So let me hit share screen. Boom. Okay, can you see that? Okay. Okay, and
Yes.
I'll just change them over here and go through them. Okay, great. Normally, when I'm doing this talk for groups or universities or things like that, I usually start with this kind of piece where, hey, what do I want to accomplish? I'm going to share what I've learned about the 7 disciplines of relationship marketing. I'm going to discuss 5 keys to a mission-driven organization. I'm going to show you 10 really good methods for better understanding your markets. And then I'm going to share a case study of really how I use the 7 disciplines as a protocol to build out um, really a marketing plan for an organization and maybe some things you'll recognize. So I'll take you back to the beginning. Okay. Any questions so far? Good. Just pipe it. It's just us. So if you have any questions, just jump in. First, that's me. When I was that age, now I was born a pretty happy kid for the most part. I'm an only child, so I didn't have to share that, it's pretty cool. But one of the things that was interesting is I had no sense of what life was going to unfold for me. And I think that's the same case for a lot of us. We don't, I mean, how can you say, oh, this is going to happen, this is going to happen? We make plans and we pretend, but most of the plans we make are usually influenced by people in our life that say, oh, you've got to do this or you've got to do that. And so over time, I began recognizing that if you really want to know your purpose, your authentic purpose, what's real to you, that there's actually a little map that's been in front of us all of our lives. And it consists of these 3 things. Number 1 is down here in the lower left-hand corner, you see passion. Now, how many of you guys, raise your hand, how many have heard, if you just work your passion, live your passion, you'll never have to work another day in your life, right? Have you ever heard that? Okay. Well, I will lovingly disagree with that. and here's why. Because have you ever, like, as you've been going to school, you've been working with friends and stuff, and people say, oh, I got this passion, I want to do this, I want to do this. And then you meet them and you realize, I know this is your passion, but shh, you're not very good at this. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, you have people and you want to be encouraging. And that's because what we've learned is that this top one, aptitude, where it really gets good is when you combine passion and aptitude. Okay. And that's really common. So maybe when you were growing up, or like for me, I remember there were kids that were really good at math. Okay. And then there were kids that were really good at sports and whatever. And a lot of people, especially adults around you growing up, are inclined to look at your aptitude and say, oh, you should be this. Because for the most part, adults are more concerned about you getting a job than you pursuing your passion, right? So they can, do this because you're good at it. But this is where the magic happens. when you combine passion and aptitude, now you've got that special mix of ingredients. Now, if you only do passion, now what do we call something that's a passion for which someone has no aptitude? Anybody have a clue what we call that? It's a hobby. And it should be a hobby. But what do we call something where someone works in their aptitude for which they have no passion? Go for it.
A job.
It's exactly what it is. It's just a job. It's not that jobs are bad, but the more you get a better understanding about yourself, about your passions and your aptitudes, this is where the magic happens. And the next thing really is experience. Now, there's a book by Malcolm Gladwell. A lot of people argue with it, but he talked about 10,000 hours of experience. And the idea of saying when someone has 10,000 hours into something, they start to approach a level of aptitude and mastery for which it's undeniable their skill. So you think about great athletes or people that have poured themselves into the profession. All of a sudden, when you get those three together, you start to get a sense of your authentic purpose. It's like the wiring, the DNA of your soul that becomes revealed. So I want you to hold on to that for a minute. I'm just going to blow through this and show you, look, that's me as a little kid. It turned out that I actually had aptitude in the arts, playing piano. You see that I still wear that suit regularly. No, just kidding. And me playing, I thought I was so cool with that guitar. It turned out I had passions. Curiously related to this field. That picture, really fuzzy picture of me, is me doing magic shows for the neighbor kids. Now, who would ever think that I would ever get into entertainment? Now, I've always been a behind the scenes guy, but apparently I had this passion around creating experiences that would make people go, wow. And that's me announcing. Now, somewhere along the way, of course, we're going to have seasons of distraction. Maybe that time when things get a little fuzzy, and that was certainly the case for me. In case you can't pick me out, I'm the bare-chested leather boy in the front, thinking, oh, maybe I'm just going to be a rock and roller. But after a little sorting of that in my time in college, it became clear that I had aptitude and passions that could be best reflected in the broadcast world. Now, when I was growing up, I thought ABC was the coolest network. This was before HBO and a lot of these things. So you can't tell by looking at me, but I'm much older than I appear. So back then, ABC was like really cool. And I couldn't imagine what it would be like to work for the ABC network. But one day, a friend of mine in school reaches out to me and says, you know, I got this internship over the ABC affiliate, and they said I could bring over a friend. I said, are you serious? He goes, yeah, would you like to come over next Thursday night? We're taping a show. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be like so crazy cool. Absolutely. I would love to be there. So I said, yes, boom. He told the producer. Then I started to sweat. And I started to think, what if I say something really stupid? What if I make a fool of myself? I could destroy any career aspirations I have by just walking in there, and they go, oh, I don't like you. You'll never have a career in this. And then forget it. I'll never work in television. So I started to get really nervous about it. The closer it got, and I remember going to my mom and saying, Mom, you know, what do you think I should do? And Mom gave me the best and worst advice that any young person can ever hear. She said, Bill, just be yourself. I said, oh man. But, you know, for me in college, I didn't think myself was good enough. I was busy trying to be somebody else or trying to, you know, be smart and all that. Just be yourself. So I started to think. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Famous Amos cookies. Anybody heard of Famous Amos cookies? Okay. Well, a lot of people don't know this, but Famous Amos was actually a casting director in Hollywood. So when he would show up to the set, he would bring cookies with him. And everybody was a Famous Amos, oh, cookies, whatever. Like, and someone told him, you know, you should sell these darn things. They taste pretty good. And that began the famous Amos cookie franchise. I thought, wait a minute. I make really good chocolate chip cookies. Really, really good chocolate chip cookies. So that Thursday night, I showed up with my own bag of Bill's famous cookies. And so I pulled them out of the oven just an hour before I went to the TV station. And as I walked in to the studio that night, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to really sell them with the cookies. But my worst nightmare, it wasn't just me. There were two other guests that my friend Dawn had brought. And one guy was Mike. Mike was older, taller, handsome, very confident of himself. And I thought, oh, crap, I can't be Mike. I'm just not him. I can't compare to him. And the other guy was Jeff. And I say this respectfully. I'm trying to think of a good politically correct word, but I guess really I'd call him a techno nerd, because he's one of those guys that just knew everything about technology. And we're all TV majors, but he was a guy that could point to any piece of gear and say it. So we get up there, and of course the producer immediately turns to Mike, and Mike reaches out and goes, well, hello, great to meet you, and this is a great TV station, and I think you do this cool stuff. And I'm just like shaking my head. I am like messed up. There's no chance up against Mike. And then he turns to Jeff, and Jeff's like pointing out, oh, I see you've got the XY3000 switcher and da da da. And I'm thinking, oh, I can't be Jeff. And the producer finally turned to me, and all I could say was, I put out my hand with my bag. I said, hi, I'm Bill. Would you like a cookie? That's all I could get out. And the producer could smell the cookies in the bag. And he reached in, he got one. The chocolate chips were still melty. He said, wow, these are really good. So he calls over to the technical director and says, hey, this kid from the university came in. He's got these cookies. Would you like some? He goes, yeah. So I walked over to the technical director, and he took a cookie. He said, wow, thanks. And he looked at the bag and goes, thanks, Bill. He said, well, go give one of the audio department. So I walked to the audio department, said, well, thanks, Bill. Then he calls down, and he said, calls down the TV station down in the studio, said, hey, there's this kid from college. He's got some hot chocolate chip cookies. Would you like them? They said, send him down. And so I walked down to the studio, and I was blown away, because for me growing up, that was like my dream. It was an incredible dream. And I walked into the studio, and I saw people that I'd been watching on TV for years. These kind of like heroes and celebrities. And I walked up with my bag, and they took a cookie and said, thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill. Well, by the time I left that night, I was out of cookies. And the producer turned to me and said, you coming back next week? I said, yeah. So I came back the next week with hot chocolate chip cookies. I came back the next week, hot chocolate chip cookies. Came back the next week. After 6 weeks, I came back with cookies, and I didn't try to be Mike, and I didn't try to be Jeff. I was just me. And the producer pulls me aside. He said, Bill, he said, I've got a stack of intern applications about that thick on my desk for the summer program. Everybody knows you, they like you. And, if you want, would you be interested in being our summer intern? I said, I'd love to. So I became the summer intern. And I will just say, and one of the lifelong lessons about leadership or career development or just life in general, I worked my fanny off. I showed up every day. I stayed extra long. I poured in the hours. If they gave me a chance to work on something, I worked on it. They said, can you do this? I said, yes. And now I started my internship between my sophomore and my junior year. So I was just 20 years old. But on the 90th day of my internship, I was hired. and I became one of the youngest major market directors in the country. Dream come true. Now, are there lessons in there? Yeah. You can think of a whole bunch of them about being you, maybe about learning cookies. I don't know. But the thing is that it was such a powerful moment for me, um, because while I thought it was a dream come true, it was the beginning of a whole bunch of cool dreams. It led to me traveling the world and gone to all kinds of different places, meeting a lot of cool people, working with a lot of really cool brands. And then because my skill set was that of a director, I ended up directing side by side with a lot of celebrities and world leaders. And then because, again, being associated with the music industry, it meant that I got to direct a lot of projects with big name entertainment. And so I was the guy that was behind the scenes going, ready one, ready two, take two, race seven, take seven, ready. So I was the guy directing the shows. And let me scroll down here just a little bit. You might think that that's kind of a Cinderella story, and it is. It was fabulous, and it continues to be fabulous. But the one thing that happened for me was I'd married my high school sweetheart. We started a family, but I was turning into an absentee father and an absentee dad. I was on the road all the time, and I thought I was doing all the right things, showing up for birthdays and games and special things like that. But one of the things I didn't have the emotional maturity to recognize is there's a difference between proximity, in other words, being in proximity to someone, and truly being present. And I would come back and I'd be in proximity to my family, but I wasn't always present because I was thinking about the next gig, the next show, the next thing. And I got an opportunity to do a documentary project for which I think it was one of my Emmy nominations, actually. And I got a distributor in Nashville that said, come to Nashville and we'll sign a deal. Boom, it's done. We're going to write you a big check to get the rights to distribute your stuff, which I thought, well, this is killer. This is so good. I thought today is going to be the beginning of a new life for me because I'm going to get paid just for the rights to distribute my content. I can do passion projects. I can do all these cool things, and people are just going to pour checks into my mailbox. Thought that was perfect. So on January 20th, 1999, I hopped into a plane on that flight from Portland to Nashville. And about 20 minutes into the flight, I started to feel funny. I couldn't put my finger on it. It was just as if things were kind of closing in on me. And I'm never sick, ever, 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 ever. And I was traveling with my best friend, who is probably one of the greatest gospel singers in the world, Timothy Greenidge. Timothy is flying with me because he's going back to Nashville for some music projects and things like that. And I got so bad, I turned to Timothy. I said, Timothy, something's not right. And that's the last thing I said before my eyes rolled back in my head and my arms flopped by my side and my heart stopped cold. And Timothy went to work. He tried to resuscitate me in my chair. Nothing happened. He's a big guy. He could like play in the NFL, and I am like, I jokingly say leprechaunish size. I'm a smaller guy. And he literally picked me up, drugged me in the aisle, and began trying to do resuscitation. And after 2-3 minutes, something like that, he said he was ready to pull back and he's ready to break my ribs. This was going to be it. And he pulls back and I took a breath. It ultimately resulted in an emergency landing. And I was diagnosed, it wasn't a heart attack. I was diagnosed with what's called malignant neurocardiogenic syncope, where the brain and the heart get out of sync. And I have it so bad that my heart stops cold. And so they put this pacemaker in my chest. In fact, funny thing, I'm on my second one now. This is that. This is the pacemaker. And when they pulled it out of my chest, I said, I want that. That's going on my desk. I paid good money for that. So that baby right there, and the grace of God, saved my life. And the thing that blew me away about that was I actually had a very profound after-death experience that changed my life, changed my perspective of God, my career, how I looked at relationships, how I looked at people, how I even look at the idea that today I have the privilege of being here with you, even though in the last 24 hours, a pacemaker recognized that my heart went to a dangerously low level. And without that, I would be dead and not able to talk to you. And when you stand on the threshold of eternity, it changes how you live. And it made me open my mind up to a whole new way of looking at my career. So, any questions so far before I jump into what I learned? All good? Good? Need a Festa Bear? Let's take a sip.
It's all incredible, Bill. I'm enjoying your story. Keep on going.
Oh,
It's really incredible.
oh, good. Okay, good. Yeah, because everybody said stop. Just please stop. Okay.
It's great. It's great. I'm enjoying it. I'm really getting excited, and it's I'm taking it all in, I'm taking it all in.
Great. Okay. Well, if there's a point where you go, hey, stop, I have questions, we'll jump in. But let me tell you where this affected me. Like I said, spiritually it affected me. I grew up Catholic, and so I was exposed to the Christian faith, but I wasn't, like completely dedicated. I was like, my mind was open. What's out there? What does this look like? What does this really mean? I was asking a lot of questions. And one of the things I'll just kind of throw out, growing up in marketing, you may have heard the 4 P's of marketing. So as a business major, you've probably taken the marketing courses. If you're a business marketing major, you've heard this: product, price, place. I found that now not satisfactory. And I had to ask this question, wait, I don't want to just do what I've learned from my advertising agency. I don't want to just do what I've been doing for the years. What would that look like? So I had to ask this question: who is the greatest communicator of all time? Who will be my mentor, the model through which I will look at? And of course, there are many of them. But the answer, oddly enough, came down to this curious trio: Steve Jobs, Jesus Christ, and Lady Gaga. Now, you might say, why is that? Well, the thing that's so profound about it is that I saw in each one of these, particularly, Jesus being the oldest, modeling behaviors in a strategy that was brilliant to the advancement of not just marketing, but creating the foundation of a movement. And that's what woke me up and made me pay attention. So let me just walk through, instead of the 4 P's, hold on, I'll go right here. Came up, I think, let's call it discovery, because it wasn't my making. It really is what's in front of us. Is I call it the 7 disciplines of relationship marketing. And they go in this order. It's mission. It is clarity of markets. It's what are the messages to those markets? Who are the right messengers? What methods will you use? How will you measure? And then ultimately, the principle of multiplication that lays over all of it. In marketing, you take one thing and you put a plus sign to it. We're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. In movements, you're looking at multiplication signs. How can we do things that will significantly multiply the impact of each other thing? And it's a game changer in terms of how you think. So with that, I can't go through all of them, but I'll blow through a few of them really quick here. The first one is going to be mission. It's going a little slow. Give me a second here as it wakes up. I'm going to do something to optimize my memory a little bit. There, you see that mission? Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let's talk about mission. Here's the thing, it's kind of crazy, is that in mission-driven organizations, I see 5 core principles as foundation. They're like pillars. And I call it, in my book, I call it your mission manifesto. I think every person should do this. I think every organization should do this. And we do this for every project. So as we take on a media project, whether it's a television show, a virtual event, a video production, a strategy session, we always ask these questions. Number one, purpose. Why? Why are we doing this? Why do we exist? Understanding our why is critical and foundational, because that purpose statement leads to the next thing, and that's missions. What must we accomplish to fulfill our purpose? A lot of people throw out mission statements, and depending upon where you go to school, what class you've taken, it's always like, what's the mission? Well, like when you look at some of the great leaders, including Steve Jobs or Jesus, what you see is that purpose and missions linked together more like warfare. So you can say the purpose is to win the war, but our mission might be to get the troops to the beach, get the supply lines here, shut off this bridge, do this. So they have multiple missions. And in case, if you diagram out Jesus' life, for example, there's 26 missions in there tied to a core purpose. And so the freedom that you have to be able to say, this is why I'm doing this, and now here's the missions I need to accomplish, it frees you up to be able to pursue those missions, that they act in harmony and not feel like, oh my gosh, I can only write down a statement long enough to fit on a pillow or fit on the entry wall of our office. The next is vision. You hear people talking about vision, like, oh, you need to have a vision. That's really good. Think of it this way. When you were little, did you ever put together puzzles? Or maybe you put puzzles now. My wife likes to put together puzzles. The first thing you do when you're putting together a puzzle is what? Look at the box, right? You want to know, what am I making? And so when you get a vision that's so crystal clear that you know what the front of the box looks like, now as you go through, you can understand, what pieces do I need for my puzzle? And even more powerful is the discernment to be able to dismiss pieces that don't go in your puzzle. Because when you're not sure what the vision is, a lot of people just start collecting pieces, and anybody can sell you anything like, well, if you get this, this will happen. If you do this, this will happen. Look, the freedom of saying, this is my vision, and the focus to focus on the cover of the box allows you to not only provide vision and clarity for you, but if you work in teams, that vision is critical for you to be able to explain to your team what that looks like. It's like an architect's drawing. You could say, we're building a house, and then throw a bunch of lumber at them. Or you can say, we're building a house, and here are the blueprints. That's what great vision does. That's what great leaders do. And it's what great leaders have to do, is to cast a vision to such clarity it brings people in alignment. The other is going to be goals. Ultimately, you have to know, what are your metrics? How will you measure success in the end and along the way? And values. How you prioritize those processes. Because trust me, as you start moving through stuff, your values are going to be more critical than ever. They are the essence of your brand. They are the living embodiment of your brand soul. And they will be the things that you will use to prioritize. For example, we get people come to us and say, hey, would you do this for us? And part of our values is we want to be a profitable, sustainable organization. That's reasonable. But one of our other values is we want to multiply those things that we believe are adding exceptional value into the lives and the well-being of our world. And if someone comes to us and says, I want you to do this, but we don't believe that it multiplies the well-being and advances caring and love and respect and honor, our desire to be profitable is subordinate to our desire to make a difference in the world. That's where values come in. They become really, really important. Let's go to the next slide here. Let me just hit on here markets. Now, when you talk about markets, you hear me talk about Jesus. It's like, oh, Jesus, do you have a markets? Well, yeah, I actually did, and Apple does too. I mean, look at how everything breaks out. For example, a lot of their product offerings are broken down by segments: teenagers, or college students, or adults, or children. Lady Gaga, same thing. Her markets have emerged over time. With very strong women and men 15 to 30. That's like massive for her, even though people that are over 30 like me absolutely adore her. Strong presence in the LGBTQ community. A lot of it, how she grew up, and it's become a core part of her message. Troubled teens, people that feel like they have been rejected or just don't fit in. Man, Lady Gaga is like the poster that says, guess what? You do fit in. You do fit in. And it's such a empowering message that connects with her. Same thing, of course, with Jesus. I mean, if you looked at all the people that he spoke to and then break down his message, you have religious markets, political markets, business markets. You have legal people, ethnic minorities, economic strata, healthcare, family. The whole thing breaks into. So for you, as you build out your business, your life, your career, one of the things that people ask is, how can I better define my markets? And of course, one of the best ways is what I call developing personas. And in this case, I refer to this specifically as the 10-digit human address. Now, you find clients in business in large part by looking at who your clients are now or who you most desire to serve. And that's a critical piece, because once you find that person that's like, this is it. I wish I had 1,000 of those. I wish I had 10,000 of those. You want to duplicate that model as quickly as possible. And so, and by the way, if you're interested, on my website, 7drm.com, there's download just worksheets. You don't have to buy the book or anything like that. You can actually just get the worksheets, and you can pull some of these down, just use it for your own projects. But we break it down by demographics and psychographics. Influencers are critical, because influencers are going to affect your media behaviors with them, and then get inside their head and their heart. What are their wants? What are their interests and needs? What are their fears and frustrations, objections? And what is their buying journey? One of the great failures I see in a lot of businesses is they're busy pushing their sales journey on to the client and wondering why it's not always connecting. It's because we're more interested in selling than we are listening. We're more interested in selling sometimes than we are serving. By the way, that becomes a value. You have to decide what's important to you. And this is one of the outcome of that discussion, and is this: the effectiveness of your message to your audience now is going to be directly correlated to your capacity to identify and satisfy their journey. If you don't satisfy their journey, you will struggle with bad sales, bad engagement, bad relationship, bad brand. A whole bunch of outcomes come from that. So with that, let me give you just a quick example. This was a project. I got hired to do a project over in Hawaii. And these were homes that were being built. They're in the $5 to $20 million range. They said, we'd like you to do the marketing for this. And we want you because we really want to attract celebrities. We want that kind of cool factor kind of built into it. And so we did the full exercise. What does it look like? And guess what we found out? In the case of Oahu purchases, because this was in Oahu, Hawaii, we found that the most predominant demographic of those that would buy beachfront property in that price range usually are male, white, 45 to 65, USA citizens. We have a lot of Asian citizens and European citizens that fall into secondary categories, but this guy was probably the likely guy if you're saying, what are the odds? The psychographics are unusual. Basically, they buy this stuff because they feel like, I've earned it. And their wants, they want to share it with others. Their needs, they want celebrity level quality and feel. And their fears are they will not live up to their own or others' standards. There's a secret thing about why you would buy that property. I mean, I don't have to tell you, you saw the picture. No one's buying $10 to $20 million properties because, oh, they need food and shelter. There's a lot more psychological reasons behind it. And they had frustrations, limited availability, price. It was on Oahu versus other islands that are cooler. But we looked at their buying journey. What would it take for them to do it? And they're still going to go through a real estate agent. They're going to be leveraged by word of mouth. And who do they esteem? Successful people and celebrities. So let me jump to this. A lot of people would ask, who will buy from me? And what we saw in Jesus is not just who will buy from me, but who are you called to serve? And this becomes a passion question for everybody in business. Is not just how can I get a transaction? It's how can I create real transformation? And it's a real heart question. It's one of the things I think of today's markets. You'd have to say that Steve Jobs was probably one of the poster children of that. I would also say Elon Musk is also in that category, that believes I am here to change the world. Okay. Let me hit on a few things about messaging. And this is really a cool one, because a lot of people would go back and say, oh, did Jesus teach anything about messaging? Well, obviously he spoke a lot. And we have stuff, but we see some really driving principles there. For example, in the messaging principle, there's a hierarchy that every message honors the purpose of missions. They weren't diluted. They're very much on a hierarchy. The message honors the market. It's relevant. So in other words, he knew his markets really well. Steve Jobs knew his markets really. Gaga knows her markets really well. You have to know your market, and then whatever you communicate, it's relevant. It's delivered with deliberate style. It has to be true and sincere. I think that we now have a really high BS filter. So when we hear people trying to shove BS and it's not sincere, we start to dismiss it. And I really agree that that's the case today. It leads to an intended action. We also know that repeating and paraphrasing messages supports retention. That's the idea of tattooing. It's a similar thing that we have with music. Why does certain music stay with us for so long? It's because we've learned the power of the hook. Well, it doesn't just happen to music. It happens in marketing as well. What becomes the hook that sticks in the heads and the hearts of the markets that you're called to serve? And of course, the greater the message impact, the greater the retention. And that for that reason, it must be memorable, and it needs to be compelling and transferable. And I'll show you exactly why here. Let me go to methods. And here's the why. And by the way, the methods is the fifth discipline in my book. I don't get to methods. When everybody thinks about marketing, they automatically think about methods like, oh, do you do TV, radio, print, or websites, or social media, or things like that? Yeah, there's a lot of these things we do. But these are the tools of marketing. Doing these is not marketing. Okay? The strategy behind the market is what makes great marketing. These are the tools. And let me show you what's really more important. And going back to one of Jesus' examples, does anybody remember the story where Jesus said, follow me and I'll make you fishers of men? Remember that? You heard that story? I'm not seeing a lot of interaction on that one, so I'll have to tell you what the story is. But the idea is, how can I teach you to leverage a skill set to make a difference in the world and not just on a fishing boat? And really, the concept behind fishing is a great example for marketing. For example, just look here. Number one, it begs the question, why are you fishing? Well, that's a mission question. The next is, what are you fishing for? Well, that's a market question. Where are you fishing? That's a demographic question. What are they biting on? That's a message question. What tools must I use? Well, those are the methods questions. So you see, the fishing analogy works really well. And let me tell you how it actually works when you look in the minds of the buyer. Okay. Everybody starts with this. They try to create awareness. It's how do you create awareness? Now, one of the great failures of a lot of marketers is they look at Coke or they look at the Super Bowl and they see these awareness campaigns. What they really are is re-awareness campaigns. because no one's putting a Coke commercial thinking you're going to scratch your head and go, man, I've never heard of that. I think I ought to get me a bottle of that. They're creating re-awareness and they're reestablishing a brand. And that's the case for those of us that, if we are reestablishing, re-awareness works. But for most of us who do not have strong brands, awareness becomes the tool that we use to get in front of people. And so it needs to be alluring or interesting or present in the right proximity. But once you get awareness, people have to learn about it. From learning, they have to understand it. And by the way, you see where it says risk value? Most of us get from awareness to understanding, if it's a simple product, in seconds. Now, how many of you have heard, I'm trying to scan as I look around the room. Some of you already turned off your camera, so I can't see everybody. But how many of you have heard that if you're 30 or under, you have a really short attention span? You heard that? And they blame you. Oh, yeah, you don't have you're too distracted. Guess what? I don't believe you have a short attention span. I think you have a high BS filter. I think that is a refined, evolved skill that people under 30 have more than ever, in large part because we have 5,000 to 10,000 brand impressions a day. And you have to make decisions instantly. Is this valuable? Not valuable. Valuable? Not valuable. And so to get to that understanding, you're able to switch something off because you say it's not relevant. But if it is, it moves to the next stage. That's to embrace and to buy in, to create action. From that action, a lot of people think you've scored when you get them in the boat, but that's not the whole case. Where it gets magical is that the Jesus model isn't a catch and keep model. It's a catch and release model, because what we really want to do is we want to turn everybody that engages with us into a messenger, an ambassador. This is where things transition from marketing to movements, is how much do you have people talking about you? Why does this become so powerful? And the truth is that Jesus used a lot of different methods. Apple uses a lot of methods. Lady Gaga uses a lot of methods. Tesla does. But I think most of us would agree that the single most powerful method of communication, especially in creating movements, is word of mouth. Right? You agree? And I'm going to throw out this. In fact, I just did a video on this for LinkedIn. There's 3 types of word of mouth. The first type is what we call wow-wom. Like something so incredible, you go, holy crud, that's absolutely incredible. And you're compelled to talk about it. But there's also whoa-wom. That is something that's so bad or sad or, oh, crap, that you're compelled to talk about it. And you tell people, oh, did you hear about that? You know, oh, that's really sad. But the third kind is the most devastating red flag in any business. And that's no-wom. Because if the only person talking about your business, your movement, your organization is you, it's a red flag that says that your message is so uncompelling that no one cares to talk about it. And so the goal is to say, how can I create momentum? How can I create a scenario where people talk about it? Well, that kind of leads me to back to our friends at Paradise Point. See how I'm doing on time. Okay, good. We got time for some questions too at the end. So if you have questions, we'll jump in. But let me just quickly tell you about Paradise Point. I went into this recognizing that if I wanted this to stand out among the sea of hundreds of properties in Hawaii, I needed to make the property a celebrity. So we produced a video. The video was crazy popular. In fact, let me just turn. I'll end up showing you a video here in a second here. And then let's look here. Screen share. Okay, I might show you this video and see if you can hear it. And so we really built it up. And we did this right around the mid 2000s. And we said it was about celebrities. So just as we would hope, just as we would pray, right around the time we were putting this on market, a certain Hawaiian resident became elected president of the United States. And so he wanted to take his family to Hawaii for the Christmas holiday. And we had worked so hard to build word of mouth about this that when he said, "Where should I go?" everybody said, "You need to go to Paradise Point." And so the newly elected president of the United States, Barack Obama, decided to stay at our homes. And we leveraged the heck out of it. Now, we made some mistakes. We learned a lot. But out of that, I started thinking, okay, remember multiply. How could we leverage that? And I needed more press. So I went to the #1 beach publication in the world, Ocean Home magazine. And I said, how would you like to have the exclusive on the, and I'm thinking, we're going to make a meme here that's going to stick. And we developed the meme Obama Winter White House. So how would you like to have an exclusive on the Obama Winter White House? We'll do the photography, we'll do everything. But all I need from you is I want the center of your magazine and I want to be on the cover. By the way, if I had bought it, would be around 100, 120 grand to get that kind of press. But the answer was yes. And so our homes were featured on Ocean Home magazine. But then, remember, I come back from a TV background. I called my friends at Good Morning America at ABC. And I said, hey, how would you like to have the exclusive tour of the Obama Winter White House? And they're like, well, what do you want to charge? I said, no charge. I'll let you in a couple of weeks before he gets there, but I need you to say Obama Winter White House 2 or 3 times in the story, because I knew that not only would it go there, but it would go on the website and all the different things. So we arranged that, and I hope you can hear that, but I'm going to try to play this for you. And you tell me if you can hear this. This is the story that aired on Good Morning America.
When I last interviewed President Obama in September, he was already pining for his Christmas vacation. 2 weeks of sun, shaved ice, and surf in Hawaii. Well, it's finally here. Delayed just a little bit by that health care vote, but it's going to come tomorrow morning. Then the president is taking off. One other big perk of the trip, a magnificent beach house his family is staying in for the 2nd year in a row. Yunji Denise takes us inside for an exclusive look at Obama's winter White House.
Hello. Hi, welcome to the Obama Winter White House.
Wonderful. This is amazing.
Step into the Obama Winter White House, and it's easy to see why the first family has made this their Hawaiian home away from home.
You have a chance to relax. You have this large enclosed area that feels like you're at your own private hotel with lush setting, and it's very peaceful here. It's very quiet.
Dave Zimmel owns the property, 7,000 square feet of paradise, large open spaces built around a lagoon pool.
One of the things I noticed when I first walked in here, there's a Christmas tree in the corner. Is that special delivery?
It is special delivery. There's not a lot of evergreen trees here on the island, so that came over from the mainland.
Christmas trees here aren't cheap. Neither is staying in this $8.9 million house, which runs $4,000 a night. The Obamas rented this one and the 2 next door for family and friends. When you spend that kind of money, people pay attention to detail.
We brought some things in last year, but we found out what he really loves is the sweet potato chips and the taro chips.
Now, these taro chips, you can't get them anywhere else.
Oh, this is Hawaiian. This is locals.
President's favorite.
Malia and Sasha share a room right next to the pool.
They could giggle, talk through the night, do whatever they want, and they wouldn't disturb anybody because it's separated from the rest of the house.
And they've got easy access to
Their favorite spot, the pool, which they would run out to and they'd swim.
But it's the master bedroom and its breathtaking view that is the crown jewel. Kailua Beach has been ranked the island's best, a favorite of Hawaiian royalty, and the president has a personal connection to this stretch of sand.
His grandfather used to take him to Kailua Beach because it's a great swimming beach. So President Obama, I think he probably learned to swim right out here.
Locals say these waters can't be beat.
You can have the worst day in the world, get in the water for just 10 minutes, catch one wave, and it's all over, and you can start fresh again. Hopefully, I'll get in the ocean and have a good time. So take that back to Washington.
The president has 2 weeks to soak in the serenity before he heads back to work. For Good Morning America, Yunji Denise, ABC News, Kailua.
Yunji also tells us that the president's Christmas getaway is on the market. One realtor says the president has expressed some interest in buying it, but no final word on an offer. He'll have to sell just a few more books.
So I think you get the idea. One of the things that is so important out of this is that this whole process, we honor the 7 disciplines: clarity of mission, clarity of markets, clarity of message, building an army of ambassadors, using methods that would arm our ambassadors, setting up a series of metrics that would allow us to see how we're doing, and then making sure that everything integrated in harmony to create a multiplying effect that ended up, of course, selling the house. And little side note, the guy that bought the house ended up deciding that he wanted to bring his family there. And so the president was no longer allowed to go to that house. And they ended up having to move down the street. So, you know, it's things like this that reminds me that there's power in really thinking through not just the process, but genuinely having a driving core about relationship, about caring, about serving, that the opportunities that exist for all of us is so much greater than having transactions. And a lot of people ask me, and I talk about at the end of my book, that yeah, when I died, I had a profound after-death experience. And one of the things that I carry with me every single day is the recognition that, you know, when I get up, you know, it's not like, oh, I earned my breath or I deserved it. I honestly believe that we're here because it's a gift, but it's more than a gift. It's a confirmation that you have purpose, that you have destiny, that you have meaning. And the fact that we're here together today and to say, how can I take everything I've learned so far with an authentic purpose? It makes today a launch day for you. It's a launch day for a new season of clarity. It's a launch day for a new season of opportunity. And it's a launch day for a new profound season of leadership and impact. And so I hope you kind of absorb that thought and don't get lost in the transactions of things going on, that there's something very powerful going on inside you. And that if you're here today, chances are very good that you're here because you have the power and the calling to change the world. So that's the heart of what I want to share today. I can dump this if people have questions, and we've got a time left. Thoughts, questions, fears, hopes, go for it. Just open your mics and go. I am here for you.
Yeah, Bill, I would just like to say thank you so much for sharing those stories, and especially the one with the near-death experience. Your heart stopped for a few seconds, and it's crazy. Thank you for letting us know about that, and thank you for being an inspiration to people on this call. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, this is the time. We have a few minutes left.
Bill, I have a question.
Yeah. Should I be looking at the chat for questions, or are you guys monitoring?
Oh, we got it. We got it.
Okay, good.
We'll notify you.
Ask me anything.
Awesome. So I've noticed that in the table of contents of your book, a lot of the chapters were kind of family related. And I believe, if I recall
Let's check.
properly, yeah.
Yeah, I talk about, well, chapter 1 is kind of family related. It's called Why Most Marketing Sucks. So then, but yeah, I talk about you've never been more ready, about building a launch pad. I only have eyes for you. Um, Decisions aren't made, whispering sweet nothings. It's a story about my wife, actually. Chocolate and flowers. So yes, you may notice that there are things that at the heart of it, what it's called 7 disciplines of relationship marketing. So relationship is so woven through every aspect of the book. Yeah.
Um, do you think just kind of do you think that a portion of that just comes from, I don't know, for me, my perspective, as far as people who work with film, a lot of the industry is kind of about learning about life. Do you believe that more or less that kind of um had an impact when coming like when creating this that portion of it?
Well, definitely, and I say because, you and I share a love for film, and the arts. And so I think some we talked about before is that connection point. And I think that, if you look at some of the greatest stories of all time, they all come down to the things we all experience. Um, I do say in the book, I believe that we're all born to love and be loved. And one of the greatest challenges we face is um, not loving ourselves. And so a lot of aspirations that people make looks like, oh, I'm trying to get people to love me. I honestly think that most people are just trying to get someone to love them, to prove to themselves that they're worthy to be loved. And when you look at that journey of all relationships, um, it's the human experience. And relationship, I come back from my death experience and I realize, oh my gosh, relationships with other people, caring and loving and respecting and honoring is one of the most powerful things we can do. And I also say relationships are some of the toughest things in the world. They're really hard. So yeah, it's part of the film thing, but I think the film emulates life. And what I wanted to do in the book was to say, let your business reflect your humanity. Let your business reflect your caring for others. Let your business be your gift to the world, not just a means to serve your financial things, you know?
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. I see that Viri actually asked a question earlier on. She asked, were you ever scared to take the job that they offered you after your internship?
You want to know something? I don't remember thinking I was afraid. Um, I mean, my 20s, in my 30s, 40s, I think always being fearful of screwing up. I've always had that. I never wanted to screw up. So I think I went into everything going, oh man, I hope I do okay with this. Boy, I really do. There's some people are just like crazy confident. And I got it. You know, I'm more excited than I am confident. And sometimes people see my excitement, my passion, and go, "Oh, he's so confident." No, I just love what I do, and I've I believed that given the chance, I could do a great job, even though I was a little afraid of screwing up. But I didn't have any hesitancy about taking the job because I honestly thought this is my chance. This is it. I think I was more afraid of not having that opportunity come again.
That's awesome. And yeah, I see it's 5 p.m. Alexis, yeah, we're gonna have to wrap up the event, but thank you so much, Bill. Thank you everyone for attending. And Alexis, you wanna do the quick close?
Awesome. Yes. So yeah, I again thank you guys for coming. We appreciate it. We appreciate your time, Bill. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to the chapter at CSUDH, doing a lot of good hard work. There's a lot of things to come. We're definitely expanding evolution of leadership. And if you want to connect with Bill, don't be shy. Just go over to LinkedIn and connect. And yeah, and you could also get his book as well. And just don't be shy. Just go for it.
Yeah,
Bill?
like we're friends now. We're friends for life. So we're stuck in this together. Whatever you guys need. Okay.
Awesome. Well, it's been a great time. Thank you guys for coming, and good night.
Okay. Good night, everybody. See ya. Take care.
Okay.